Hello and welcome to ET Now Hangouts with me, Ankita Saxena. Well, I'm back with yet another exciting episode of meaningful conversations with influencers, startup founders, the latest trends, and what's hot for the weekend. Well, today I'm in conversation with a writer, producer, storyteller, teacher, entrepreneur, and most importantly, youth mental health and gender advocate. Now, he is the co-founder and Chief of Yuvaa, India's first Gen Z-driven youth media, research and impact organization that works on purpose-driven solutions to empower young Indians by creating meaningful conversations online. I'm in conversation with Nikhil Taneja, who is also the host of the popular podcast, Be a Mania. Hi Nikhil, welcome to ET Now Hangouts. So good to have you on the show today. You're also the host of a very popular podcast called Be a Mania. So I want to begin by asking you, what got you started with this podcast? We all know how deeply entrenched the idea of masculinity is in our society. As a man, what was that moment of epiphany for you that whatever was being taught to you, or something was wrong there and you wanted to redefine masculinity through this podcast perhaps?
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Ankita. It's I love the set. It's such a cool vibe.
Thank
such
you
a
so
Gen Z
much.
vibe. So I'm feeling really at home over here. There's no short answer to why Be a Mania exists. I'm really grateful that the show is being watched and it's doing so well. But at Yuvaa, we do these things called the Yuvaa Roadshow. We go across the country where we talk to young people, we listen to them. I've been to 150 campuses now. I've met 20,000 young people over the last 4 years, 4 to 5 years. I've gone to IITs, IIMs, AIMS, NITs, NIFTs, you name it. And we try to create safe spaces where young people can speak up without judgment. Every time I've gone to a campus and we've tried to create this safe space, when women speak up, they speak up mostly, and this is just the sad, unfortunate reality of a country, they speak up mostly about harassment. When boys are given a safe space, they mostly speak up about loneliness. And the difference is that every time a girl speaks about their hard realities, they also give shout outs to other girls who are there for them. They're like, that girl over there, because of her, I'm able to survive. That girl, she's my sister, she's my best friend. Thank you so much for, looking out for me, for making me feel a little less, little less bad, little less worse for what I'm going through. On the other hand, every time a boy speaks about loneliness, and this is the thing about loneliness, right? There's no other boy coming and giving them a hug. There's no other boy who's coming and like saying, or they're not giving a shout out to somebody else and saying, yaar, uski wajah se I'm here today. And the more you talk to these boys, they tell you they've never received hugs in their life. They've never nobody's told I love you to them. Their parents haven't told I love you to them. So I was hearing all of this. I was seeing that it's a tough world out there for all young people, all genders. At the same time, there was this beautiful sisterhood, this beautiful friendship and companionship and community I was seeing among young women, whereas I was seeing that completely lacking about young men. And then, of course, as a society, we are now having the conversation about toxic masculinity at a very large level. We're starting to talk. I'm not saying that there is work that's been done, but there is no alternate conversation. We know what is wrong with men, and it is good that we are now taking accountability, we're having those conversations, but how do you make things right? What is the other conversation to be had? Where is the positive conversation about what we do right as men? And that's really the reason behind, I thought that we need to have communities for men which are positive as well. Where a boy, after watching Be a Mania, hopefully watching Vicky Kaushal or Zakir Khan or Nasir Sir, or Karan Johar, Nakul Mehta, just listening to these folks and feeling like if they can speak on this couch with a friend of theirs or heart to heart, maybe I can with my friends too. So that was really the big reason behind this.
Right, Nikhil, like you mentioned that men do not have a safe space to emote, right? I also feel that, we are progressing and we talk about raising our girls like men, but that's not how it should be, right? If you want to promote equality, you should rather raise your son like your daughters and not the other way around. Raise your son like a daughter with more compassion, with more respect, more sensitivity, and also give them a safe space to emote and express, right?
I don't think we are raising any children right. I don't think that we are raising
neither of the genders.
Any of the genders. I feel like, it's so sad that the more I hear young people, the first when you go behind the scenes to why they are able to express in safe spaces that we create in campuses, but not at home with their parents, you start realizing that the biggest barrier that they face is that their parents don't want to listen to them, or they don't know how to listen to them, or they've never tried to put that effort in trying to listen to their children. And these children are going through we've gone through a lot when we were younger, and at this world which is far tougher, I would say, than the world we grew up in, with social media, with internet, with so many different things that people have awareness about, and so many more complexes that exist that used to at one point of time. The level of depression, anxiety in young people has gone shot through the roof. And yet, there is no dialogue between parents and children. And so, unfortunately, in a patriarchal country like ours, everybody is being raised according to patriarchal standards. So women are being told that your mission statement in life, even today, is that you have to get married someday. And boys are being told your mission statement is life is to be a provider, to earn enough money so that you can be that guy that the women want to marry. So यही है शादी का सब settle होने का idea है. Everybody wants to get your children to that level where they can get settled, they can be in a marriage and then do the same roles, nurture and the provider, which just doesn't work anymore, because every person wants to be more than what the boxes that they put in. Young women want to do a lot more than just be nurturers. They of course want to go out in the world, own the world, be whoever they want to be. And similarly with men, maybe men don't want to be providers. They also don't
want to be the bread earners. Maybe
they could be. It's not that they don't just want to be.
That's not their only role. Or they could take a backseat also.
Absolutely, they could. Why do men not get the opportunity to be nurturers? Because those are the boxes they can't even see themselves out of. So it's very important that as a society we just start having more conversations about treating young people as human beings versus just looking at them as genders. The moment you put the perspective on gender, you're always going to look through a prism, and that prism unfortunately is a very narrow prism in our society.
Nikhil, how do you define masculinity in today's day and age?
I mean, I choose to define it through my humanity. I feel like I think masculinity or femininity should ultimately be decided by the person who inhabits the body that these terms or these phrases are about. I feel like every person who has a certain idea of masculinity should also have the option to in many ways feel and
express the
feminine side as well. And when you have a femininity in you, you should also have the option and the opportunity to express that masculinity in you. So I feel like we look at it almost as exclusive terms, but they're yin and yang. And I think like ultimately we should really have a step back and look at the humanity in all of us, where both these emotions exist in every person. And if we are able to, and there are people who are who are born in male bodies but have more femininity in them. They have and there are people born in female bodies who do have a sense of masculinity in them, and we should not guard rail what these terms should mean and what these terms how these terms should define every human being. Let us make everyone have that individual choice.
Speaking of which, how strongly do you think movies have a bearing on the society? And if yes, we have had 2 movies. We have had Kabir Singh, and we have had a recently released Animal, which not just, they are in a way celebrating a very toxic form of masculinity. They have done very well in terms of numbers. So there's almost a dichotomy that exists in the society right now. While these films are really producing good numbers, because obviously people are going and watching it in the theatres, but we also consider ourselves very woke. So what's happening really?
I think that to begin with, I absolutely agree that I feel like movies do have I think anybody who says that movies are just a tool for entertainment or escapism is basically lying to themselves or lying to everyone else that movies don't have any responsibility, and that the artists who are making them don't have any accountability, which I think is patently untrue. Like all art is political.
But what about creative freedom then?
No, but that's exactly, you can, all art is political. Now whether your politics is conscious, whether it is subconscious, it is political. Every decision you make in your film or your content piece is a decision that comes naturally through the privilege that you have. And so you might, as an example, you know, in your characters in the world that you occupy can all be upper caste. Now that's something that you may say, oh, that's just my life, you know, and it's not a political thing, it's just who I am. But that's the life that you have led, and it's your bias that you already have inherently, you know. And at the same time, you can have in your films, women may not have substantial roles, and that's because in your life women may not have substantial roles. And so you are saying, no, I'm just representing my truth, but it is politics, because in your life that politics has led you to behave in a certain manner where you're not giving women opportunities to speak. So all art has a political tone to it, and when I say politics, it just purely means the world and sociological understanding of the world that we have. Now filmmakers who agree to it and go out and create incredible films, and internationally you would see a lot of filmmakers, even in India, you know, even in an Archies, it's so beautiful to see that Zoya Akhtar having a song that says that you know, everything is political. Now on the other hand, when it comes to films like the ones that you mentioned, I just always feel like, and this is my personal opinion, I always feel like we get too caught up in talking only about the films that are toxic or that represent a certain toxicity. On the other hand, and you know, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when we constantly say, "Arey, yahi chal raha hai. This is the one that's working. Look at the numbers on this one. Look at, you know," and only having that conversation, then everyone also starts thinking, "Yes, yahi chal raha hai," and then you start making more movies because they think that this works, and then the conversation grows bigger, and we're only talking about the toxic stuff. On the other hand, what I would like to talk about is the soft masculinity of Pathan and Jawan. Two other films that have released this year, which are blockbusters. And look at them. In them, Shah Rukh Khan has portrayed, even as an action hero, these incredible feminist you know, behaviors that we should be talking more about. You know, when Shah Rukh, you know, in Shah Rukh's character in Pathan is seen, you know, first encounters Deepika Padukone's character, she saves him. And he's from like the goons over there, from the killers over there, and he at no point tries to be the hero and tries to be like, you know what, you're the woman, you don't worry, I will save you. No, he's happy to be protected by her. Why are we not talking about the gender lens that this film has and the gender lens that Shah Rukh Khan brings to his films as much as we talk about Sandeep Vanga Rendy's gender lens? Yes, that's a problem, and yes, that conversation should matter, but this conversation should matter just as much. And the more we talk about this, more filmmakers would be like, "Arey, ye bhi to chalta hai," and they will more hopefully be more feel
cognizant
like
of the fact that
absolutely, and that's where, you know, newer, better things come up.
Right. Also, you have a platform called Yuvaa, which comes out with a research report, and this year also it's called Not All Gen Zs. You have a ear to the ground. Through the report and through the conversations you have had, what are the challenges of Gen Z today, and what is the solution to that?
I think, as I was saying earlier, the biggest, I think, challenge that a lot of young people today are facing is they are not being heard enough. I don't think we listen, and I think this is true for every generation. I don't think even when we were growing up, we were not being heard, except that we didn't have problems as large as these young people. And the problems in a sense that, you know, if I was a millennial and I didn't want to do engineering as an example, which I've done, and I wanted to write, you know, and I wanted to write and I wanted to be an artist. And when I would tell my parents I don't want to do engineering, my parents would shout at me and say, "No, you have to." And they'd say, "What would you do instead?" And I would just be blank because I didn't know what else I could do which could be a possible career option. On the other hand, young people today have like 20 options.
Plenty of options,
At the same time, they're still being told, "No, you have to do X, Y, Z." You know, they are being told what to do by their parents because their parents believe that is the way that the world works. But the world has changed, and these young people have a lot more understanding of the world. They have a lot more awareness, information because of the internet. So they have, it's patently false when parents said कि हमें तुमसे ज़्यादा पता है. In my generation, I know more than you. It's not true for this generation. These children actually know as much or more than their parents at a much younger age. They just don't have the lived experience. So they keep thinking about these things, that what I'm thinking is true, what I'm feeling is true. Why are my parents not listening? Why not understanding? And the problem, and the thing that I keep hearing, Ankita, every time I go out and meet young people is the burden of empathy now is on young people. Like they understand that their parents don't understand. They understand that yes, they don't have the information. They don't have the understanding at this point in their lives, because they have grown up in a different society, they have grown up in a different world, and suddenly these young people are carrying that burden that I have empathy for my parents, they unfortunately don't have empathy for me. So what do you do in this situation?
Very interesting.
So they're always on their phones. They're always looking, they are trying
for
to...
some sort of validation, escape.
Exactly. So they are now looking for the safe spaces or the communities that they're not getting in their homes, in their phones. Parents are unfortunately not able to speak to young people in the language that they understand.
Right. Very interesting that Gen Z has the burden of empathy. It's such a brilliant statement. But, you know, what is it? I'll flip the question and ask you, what is it that Gen Z has really nailed it, is doing it way better than the generations before us?
Yeah. I just think that, I think they care deeper about the world. I feel like they are raising their voices, you know, far more. The reason today you're having a conversation about toxic masculinity with me is because it's a conversation they have been screaming about. You know, I don't think we did enough to have these conversations.
Oh, absolutely.
We didn't do anything meaningful for women. And in this generation, they're doing for each other. They're not waiting. They are not saying that somebody will save us. They don't have any faith, I think, in millennials or zoomers. They are like boomers. They are like, आप कुछ नहीं करने वाले, हम ही एक दूसरे की help करते हैं. That's what they're doing. They're creating communities of their own. They're going out and making things happen. The most incredible you know, leaders in the world today, whether it's a Greta Thunberg, whether it is a Malala, there are young people. In our country, we just don't give young people enough opportunities. And if we are able to help them a little bit, or at least learn from them, we can use their help in actually making the entire world better.
Right. So more power to you for that, and you know, may all the Gen Zs and millennials be heard. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us, Nikhil. It was a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Ankita. Thank you for having me.
And well, with that, it's time for us to slip into a short break. You don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.